This is Podco Media Networks.
On episode 133 of Confessions of a Marketer, building a great brand. Hi, it's Mark Reed Edwards. Welcome back to Confessions of a Marketer. Jocelyn Kopac is here to talk about building a great brand. We will have that in just a moment. Soon we'll be joined by Amanda Slavin, who has a book called The Seventh Level, which is all about engagement. We had a great discussion. I can't wait to share that with you. And coming up in the weeks and months ahead, we'll be talking with Maggie Fox about the CEO-CMO relationship and lots more. Vincenzo Landino will be in to talk about CEOs and social. Mark Schaefer will be here to talk about his book, Marketing Rebellion, along with consumer trends, customer loyalty, and viral marketing. Plus, Catherine Hayes, speaker, advisor, co-host of CMO Spotlight on SiriusXM Business Radio, and author of Beyond Advertising, will be in to discuss advertising. Lots more great discussions in store. All right, on to Jocelyn Kopac. Jocelyn started out in music and moved into speaking, venture capital, and brand work. She currently works with clients that need to move their brand online, people like speakers and coaches. It's an interesting space, and Jocelyn has a fascinating point of view. It was a fun chat, so let's get to it. Jocelyn, great to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so super excited.
Can you share your background and career path, how you got where you are?
Yeah. So I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. And when I say that, I literally mean it. I started my first business when I was 7. I know. I was one of those kids, and I wasn't doing a lemonade stand, but I lived on a farm. And so I did free range organic eggs, and I had 50 chickens. And I grew up not right outside, but about an hour and a half, 2 hours outside of Chicago. So all the Chicagians, or however you say that, would come up and buy eggs because I thought it was a super cool thing to stop at the farm and actually buy eggs. So yeah, I had myself a little business, and so it grew to meat animal products. And so anyway, so that was how I got started.
Yeah.
I grew up, went to college. In college, I started my first, big girl, with quotes around it, business. And that was in music because I was a music scholar and I played music all through high school and things. And so that was my thing. So that business. So I have been in the service industry my whole entire life. Mm-hmm. And it just evolved into what I do now, which is speaking, venture capital, and digital marketing. So helping people get their brand up online and making money.
What kind of clients do you have?
So we focus very strictly on people that either have or want to take their brand online. And the reason that is because I'm really big about building an audience, not just throwing money at ads and waiting for somebody to buy from you. Mm-hmm. And so we work with a lot of people with e-commerce stores or that need a brand online, like speakers or coaches.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's a growing field, isn't it? That type of person who has maybe had a career of 10, 15, 20 years who decides to start sharing their wisdom.
Yeah, it is a huge field. And it's really fun to see, though, because each person, even though, let's say they're going to go be a business coach, they all have their very distinct thought processes when it comes to that, even though they've all come from corporate America or something along those lines. And so it's always really fun to talk with them and start to get to know the client when they're coming on, because you're like, oh my goodness, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
And it's fun to get to know them like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the secret, or maybe it's not a secret? What are the basic elements of building a great brand for someone?
Yeah. So I always say the most important thing is having clarity within yourself and what you want your business to do. Because a lot of people start a business because they think it's sexy, and they just want to make money, which is great. That's exactly why you should start a business. You shouldn't want to start a business to play around and spend money.
Right.
But they need to have clarity on where they actually want to go, because you can't build a brand without that end idea in mind, right? Whether it's they want to exit and sell that brand, for $4 million, or they want to be able to talk to a conference and immediately get a spot on a stage, or if they want publishers to reach out to them to write books, whatever that is that they really, really want to do. So having that clarity is really, really paramount. And then using that to flip it over into, okay, who actually is going to listen to that and want to be part of that insight and that drive and that pathway? Because if you don't know who you are talking to, you can't talk to them. And so a lot of people really skip that clarity on the front end of where you want to go and that clarity of who actually wants to go with you on that journey. They think, oh, I'm going to be a household brand. I hear that all the time. Like, I want to take my, product that's an e-com product, right, and become a household brand. And you're like, no, that you can't do that
Right.
because unfortunately you didn't invent the microwave, So
Yeah.
you have to have a very clear of whose household you want to be in, and then make sure you are talking about that every single time you talk about where you want to go. So that's the two big things that I usually talk to when it comes to building a good brand.
So how do you advise clients? If I were a client coming to you, what would the first bit of advice be for me to manage my brand?
My first bit of advice, and this sounds kind of silly, but is to get on every social media platform and save your, either people call it your URL, your @ tag, your username, whatever, right? So your name is Mark. So let's say yours is going to be @ Mark Reed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So get on there and save it, right? Because if you have goals to, of world domination, you want to
Which
make
I do,
sure.
of course.
Exactly. You want to make sure you have that that space on each platform already saved for you, even if you're not doing anything with it. And a lot of people miss that crucial step, and then they go to that next platform, right? And they go to copy their URL that they have on Facebook and Instagram over to that next platform, like let's say it's Twitter, and their URL is already taken.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it bunks up how everything works. So that would be my first thing always, no matter even if somebody's coming on or not. I'm like, that is like the first thing you should do if you want to take your brand online, because you need that space on each platform, whether you use it or not. So that's my first usually go-to piece of advice. Yeah.
It's a very tactical thing, but boy, it's really important, isn't it?
It is. It is. And it makes my job as a marketer or as a strategist a lot easier, because then we're not trying to come up with new ways to, change up your brand name so that it fits on this next platform, because that really creates an issue with cohesiveness as you get bigger and people are trying to find you.
So who does this really well online? Personal branding, Kylie Jenner, people like that. But maybe there are some names we haven't heard.
Yeah, so you probably have heard Gary Vee. He does an amazing job with
Yeah.
his personal brand. Now, granted, it's not necessarily him, it's also his team, but he does a really good job, because you can go on Twitter, you can go on Instagram, you can go on Facebook, you can go on TikTok, and it's the same vibe he's giving off on all of it, which is great. So that is one name that a lot of people actually probably already know. My other favorite person, her name is Sunny Lenarduzzi, and she made her name big by utilizing YouTube to build her business.
Mm-hmm.
And as she's kind of moved throughout the platform, she's done a good job replicating her brand and her feel, but then making it specific to the platform she's trying out or going on to. So I really like those two.
Yeah. So you've got an interesting website that I was looking at earlier. It's called thedigitalmarket.co. Can you tell me about it?
Yeah, so the digitalmarket.co actually came about because I was looking around and I was using my own personal name for my consultancy. And as we got bigger and started working with more clients, obviously I needed to build a team, and I felt kind of weird using my name and being like, oh, but the team's going to help me out with this. So we looked at what we could possibly do to consolidate the team and also the brand, and also separate it a little bit from my personal brand, because my personal brand, I do some other stuff like venture capitalism and things like that. So, I wanted to separate that out. And so we actually took the SEO, search engine optimization route and found a keyword we liked and made it into our URL.
Yeah.
So that's how we ended up with the name. And the idea is it's the place where you can go if you are trying to build your brand online, aka the digital market, and just are either stuck, that you've already started it, you're already making, 6 figures, but you're like, I just can't get to that next level. Or if you are just starting out and you have questions, right? And you can come and you can find the answers, or at least find somebody that can give you the answers.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
What are the toughest challenges in branding that you hear from your clients, from prospects, from colleagues that you can help people solve, or the toughest challenges that you've ever heard from
Mhm.
any of these people?
So the first and main one we hear is consistency, because consistency costs time, and if it costs time, it costs money. And yeah, you can totally just throw out a quote every few days, but if that quote isn't in parallel with your brand and where you want to go, it just doesn't do anything for you, really.
Right.
So that's the first one. And there's a bunch of stuff, and there's a bunch of gurus and marketing people that have various ways of working on consistency and helping you and your brand become more consistent. And all are completely valid. But that's the first one that I hear a lot. And that's one of the main things our clients come to us with is like, hey, we've been doing it, bootstrapping it, or, we lost our assistant that was doing it, on a semi-regular basis, and now we're kind of lost and the consistency isn't there, and we don't want to lose the momentum from all the other stuff we're doing. So
Yeah.
that's the first thing. The second thing is reputation management. A lot of companies forget about this, like completely not even on their radar until it becomes an issue.
Hmm.
And so that's another reason that we talk with a lot of clients about their brands is their reputation either has taken a dump for some reason, or they're looking at it and going, I'm trying to get to this next level, but we don't have the credibility to back us up, even though we have the sales to back us up. And
Right.
so, how do we garner that reputation, that good reputation, or fix the reputation that has been tarnished? And
Right.
so those are
Right.
the two main ones that we see over and over again.
How do you manage that? We've talked about this a few times on the podcast and how, for a local restaurant or small business, having to check all the reviews on the various sites and respond to them, whether
Mhm.
negative or positive, that can be a huge undertaking for a small business. How do you recommend people manage that?
Yeah. So, first and foremost, for reputation management, I recommend whoever is keeping up with that stuff is not easily offended or butthurt. Because a lot of times I see mediocre review turn into a super bad review because whoever responded to it either gave them an air of we just don't care or
Right.
sucks for you or something
Yeah.
like that. And so that's my first thing all the time is whoever is managing anything online is able to internalize and compartmentalize that it's not necessarily them that the person is mad at.
Right.
It's just they just didn't have the best experience or the experience they were looking to have. So that's my first thing. And the second thing is proactivity is better than reactivity. So making sure your customers are having a good time during their visit, during their stay, whatever, especially for a local business, will help you out in the long run and is a lot cheaper than trying to refix your reputation after it's been damaged. And so that's one of my big ones is every time we see a business come and they're like, hey, we have 15 really bad reviews. I go, okay, wait, it's not necessarily these people were just pissed off. Like, what is going on? What are you doing customer service wise to either make it a great stay or a great visit or a bad one and fixing that? And then, like I said, being proactive. So talking with people, is there anything we could have done to make it better? If you liked your stay, please leave us a review, right? That's stuff that your server at a restaurant can say.
Hmm.
Like, hey, makes me look really good. Like, you're going to give me a tip. I know this, but, makes me look really good in front of my boss. If he gets a review and says, hey, Tammy was our server tonight and she was absolutely incredible, right?
Yeah,
And
Tammy is always really good.
exactly, right? And so having that proactivity and working with your people that are customer facing with that proactivity and having them ask for reviews, ask for feedback, things
Yeah.
like that will make your reputation management so much easier in the long run.
I was at a bar in New York, I don't know, a year or so ago where they asked for reviews. And then when you showed them the review, they gave you a drink special or something like that. I can't remember the
exactly.
specific thing.
And that's part of your proactivity and looking back at your customer service as well is can you afford that 10% off if you come in with a 5-star review?
Right.
Because a lot of people aren't just going to do a 5-star review, remove it. You know what I mean? They're going to do a
Sure.
5-star review because they've been there and they really, really liked your service or your product or whatever. And so that's something that people can offer. Not all businesses have that ability or that margin to offer, but if they can offer something like that, absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I just want to talk about the platforms. So you recommend right at the beginning of the process, get on all the platforms with the same branding, same URL structure, all that.
Mhm.
But I want to know two things. What's your favorite platform? And what's the platform that maybe people don't think about but should be on?
Yes. So my overall favorite platform. So my first is always go and get your branding on each platform, right? Whether you use it or not is beside the
Yeah.
point. Nobody else can use it, right?
Yeah.
Then my favorite platform, and this is going to be pretty much counter to everybody else out there, is Pinterest. And the reason is Pinterest has both male and female. People that are on Pinterest have a pretty decent income. You can run ads on Pinterest. Pinterest ads are not nearly as expensive if you're going to run ads on Facebook or Instagram or even Google. Those are like ridiculously expensive.
Yeah.
LinkedIn as well. Those ads are very, very expensive. And Pinterest ads are very affordable. And you can send traffic to wherever you want to on Pinterest. As long as it's somewhere online, Pinterest will send traffic to it. And you can send traffic to it organically or with an ad. And so that's my favorite platform because you can really jumpstart your business quite quickly by garnering decent amount of quality traffic. And so that's my first one. That's always, if you can pick a platform that you're going to be on, Pinterest is my number one. And then the platform that a lot of people just don't even know about yet, just because it's not huge yet, and I've mentioned it already, is TikTok.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds crazy. It's a strictly video platform. You only have 60 seconds with the video. And it's starting out just like Instagram did, right?
Yeah.
And Instagram now is one of the, you could be arguably the top 3 social media platforms. And it's starting out in the middle school, high school, early college age range. And as it gains more popularity, it's actually becoming older and older, just like Instagram did. And obviously, as you grow older, the idea is you have more money, more disposable income to spend. But it's really nice to get on a platform before it blows up like that because you already have a following, which gives you more clout on the platform.
Yeah.
And it makes it easier to sell. So there are already people on TikTok that are making a ridiculous amount of money. And so that's one that the brands that I'm highly recommending they start adding to their content process and adding TikTok onto it.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
Essentially, what we're talking about is building a brand in the social universe, right? On
Yep,
these
the
social
digital.
media, digital platforms. And where do you think things are going with digital? Are we going to get more platforms or fewer platforms? Is TikTok going to take things over? There's a lot of talk in the political sphere about breaking up some of these big
Mhm.
brands like Facebook. Where do you think we're actually going?
So, although there's a lot of talk about it, I don't think we are anywhere near being able to break these up. There's a few reasons I say that. One, the amount of money Facebook makes just doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
it's a lot of money. And two, they're starting to branch into things that aren't necessarily a social platform.
Right.
Like they're trying to branch into banking, they're branching into the dating sphere, they're branching into Craigslist's little piece of the internet with buy and sell, that kind of stuff. They're branching into Reddit's kind of situation where you can have that group where you talk and intertalk
Yeah.
with people with Facebook groups. So I don't think we're going to see a breakup of some of the bigger ones. I do think we're going to see a decline in use as we continue to grow, right? Because Twitter was the main one. Facebook took it over. Instagram, we thought was going to take over Facebook. Then Facebook bought Instagram. TikTok is now a big player or becoming a bigger player, right? And I think we're just going to continue to add on and we're going to see a bigger span of social networks that cater to different types of things. But with that, in the next 10 years, I think overall the written word, when it comes to like blogging, that kind of stuff, like written posts are going to be pretty much null and void. I think we're going to have a lot more audio video.
Yeah.
So that's, where podcasting comes in.
Exactly. I obviously it's something that I'm heavily involved in, but it's just a wonderful medium to express yourself. And
it is. It definitely is. I like how you can actually express your meaning, because you can hear the tone of voice, you can hear the meaning behind what you're saying, not just in writing. You sometimes miss that.
Yeah. And it's really about audio. It's called podcasting, and certainly that's what we call our company, but it's about audio, and audio is a great way to tell stories and to engage
100%.
people. And the thing I tell people, and maybe you'll agree, maybe you'll disagree, is that it's a really intimate medium because you have headphones on or you're listening to it by yourself on your commute. It's really a one-to-one medium.
Oh, I think so too. And part of going off of that is I think you can find what suits you, right? There are plenty of business podcasts out there. And I mean, I'm speaking from experience where I have found business podcasts that I'm like, that is not helpful at all. And part of it is, they're the way they speak or the way they teach or who they're bringing on or whatever. But, I can listen to a podcast that's got the same format, just a different host. And all of a sudden, it just clicks and it all works and it's fun to listen to and you're learning and you feel like you're interacting and you feel like you want to go onto social media and interact with it and things like that. So I think that's a very good point, that it is extremely individualistic, but at the same time, you can build a very good community around it.
Yeah. So maybe that's one of the next iterations of social media will be something around audio and around podcasts that make them more interactive and social.
Well, and that's exactly what I'm saying with TikTok is it's a completely 100% audio video based platform.
Yeah.
Literally, you just don't write. You write like not even a sentence, like a phrase. And that's pretty much what you write, and you use a couple hashtags and that's it. And that's why I think that's going to be one of the next big players, is because overall, I mean, we have Google Home and Amazon Alexa and, smartwatches, and all of those are voice activated. And people want that because it's faster, right? It's faster to voice a text than it is to, text it out with your thumbs. So I think overall that it's going to become the next wave of media.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, Jocelyn, this was really fascinating to learn about your background and career and what you're up to, and I really appreciate you joining me.
Well, thank you for having me on. It's been kind of fun. I love talking about branding and digital marketing.
Well, it was a pleasure having you here. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, next time, Amanda Slavin on engagement, so stay tuned. Confessions of a Marketer is a trademark of Podco Media Networks, and this episode is copyright 2020. I'm Mark Reed Edwards. See you next time.